The Jersey Devil. You've heard about it and we've podcasted about it before, but we're taking a deeper dive into the legend. Join us on Speaking of Spirits. Hey everybody, this is Colleen with Pocatello Paranormal, and today I've got Kelly with me.
Hey everybody.
And, we're talking about the Jersey Devil again, and we've done a podcast on the Jersey Devil, but there's more information that Kelly was able to dig up. And so I thought it would be kind of interesting. We thought let's tackle the devil again. And it's what Kelly found to me is fascinating because it puts a different spin on this whole thing. And the Jersey Devil, we're talking about the Pine Barrens of Jersey. And if you've ever been out there, it's really quite pretty. It's I'm going to show you on Google Maps. So there, as it's loading, or maybe it's not loading. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, it's not doing anything on my side. So that is the area we're talking about. And Leeds Point in particular is kind of where the story originated. But so if you noticed how much there's not much there. It's about 3,500 square miles of forest. And a lot of people don't think Jersey has forest, but there's a lot of Jersey is very, very pretty. And it's not city at all. So there's kind of a lot of wild areas. This area right here, this map is showing the scenic byways. And then of course, all of the green in this map, that's the piney woods or the Pine Barren area of the forest. It's a lot of, I think it's Atlantic cedar, white cedar, and it's a conifer forest, but it's a lot of swampland too in here. So it's really, really quite pretty. But and then we'll share some of the photos or renderings that people have of this thing. Let's get into the story, Kelly.
Okay, so everybody knows the story of the Leeds Devil, or as we know it, the Jersey Devil. And before all this happened, the Leeds family was a very prominent family in New Jersey towards the Pine Barrens. And after a while of doing trading and stuff like that, the business, as it were was handed down to the son of the Leeds family that we now know as the family that the story originates from. But during that time, he was in direct competition with Ben Franklin for publishing a farmer's almanac. And Ben Franklin made up the whole story to discredit the Leeds family. So,
Really?
Yeah.
I have never heard that. So we're talking 17...
Yeah,
right?
Something like that, yeah.
Early 1700s then.
And Mr. Leeds, after hearing this, wrote a scathing, I guess, letter back to Ben Franklin, and Ben Franklin just kept trolling him till he just went, you know what, have it. So another
Oh.
another thing I came across was the Lenape people, who were the original people that lived there. Had a creature called Messing, and it was a spirit that looked like a deer and creature with leathery wings. Now, is it tied in? I don't know, but it's interesting.
That is interesting because there's so many different renditions of this creature, but they all have wings,
Yeah,
and and most of them have at least one set of cloven hooves, which is a deer has cloven
yeah,
hooves. So that's pretty interesting.
and
But there's claws, right?
I didn't
So
know that. I didn't know that. I had to look at the picture again and
so
the
here's one
description.
of the. This was in the newspaper in the late 1800s. This was a drawing of the Jersey Devil. So it has cloven hooves with claws. They're on the front. Like a deer, kind of deerish looking head, and these wings. It's a freaky looking thing, and if you saw something like this, certainly would be a little alarming, I think. So you're saying that Franklin created this whole thing
Yeah,
to get the
to
land that the Leeds owned, or
no,
to
to
start?
get
No, just
the rights
start the
to publish a
almanac.
farmer's almanac.
Okay, to start the Farmer's Almanac. Okay, so then he's the one who came up with this whole 13th child.
Yep.
Um, he's the one. It's amazing because so the story goes that Mother Leeds was having her 13th child, and she just wanted to, like, the baby's going to be the devil kind of thing, and she didn't want the child, and so the Jersey Devil.
She didn't have 13 kids. Mr. Lees was previously married twice, and he already had 8 kids. So that would mean
And
that she was on her 5th kid plus 8. And yeah, I could see that, a house full of kids, and she's just like, you know what? I, I've had it. I cursed this kid, and yeah. So and
so
then
all of those stories spawned from this fight over the Farmer's Almanac. But then you still have the Native American tribe that has this creature.
yeah,
So I'm wondering, did Franklin hear about this thing through the Native American tribe and then just take it and run with it?
it's possible. Sure, I don't see why
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, right? So if you've ever been to the Piney Woods or the Pine Barrens in Jersey, and I've been there. I lived fairly close when I lived in Pennsylvania, so we'd go, and I think I've only been there. I want to say maybe twice. It's and I haven't been really that much at night because of what we were doing and road tripping and stuff. But I can imagine that being in there at night would be kind of freaky for people. And like I said, not all of Jersey is built up. A lot of people think New Jersey is like what look New York City right across the bridge, and it's just all this just giant city, all concrete, right? And that's not Jersey at all. Jersey is very wild and very beautiful, and if your experience is that you live in a city and you're from the city and you go to the Piney Woods, it would be somewhat scary if you're not someone familiar with the woods.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
especially at night. If you don't know what you're, yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, you've never been to the woods at night, yeah, it's going to be pretty scary.
And a particular phenomenon that happens with swamps that doesn't happen anywhere else, right? So there's a lot of swampland. This is sea level piney woods. It's not mountainous like you think of the Oregon coast and all this, right? It's low level, swampy. It floods a lot, and swamp gas happens, and swamp gas can light. It
Mm-hmm.
makes light. So if you've ever been in like the Louisiana swamps, even in Wisconsin, there's swamps, right? So anywhere where you have this marshy lowland, you get this buildup of organic matter that creates swamp gas, and it can light off. And so you have these phenomenons going on around these swampy areas. And that in itself, if you're not familiar with, that's scary as heck, right?
I've never seen it,
But
so I don't know.
it's pretty fascinating to see the swamp gas light off. It's really pretty, and it's filmed, and it's really kind of fascinating. But on the same token, you've got this creature that the Native Americans are saying is real because they've seen it, and there's eyewitnesses to this thing. Now it seems very, very elusive, somewhat. I mean, like Bigfoot elusive. Very few people have seen this thing. Very few people have interacted with this thing, but it has been considered responsible for deaths.
Yes. A lot of farm animals. There was a case where a farmer went out to check his pigs, and all his pigs were killed, but they didn't take the body. They just ate the back of their skull and ate their brains, and there was scrape marks on their shoulders, like something perched on them and just ate their brains. It's bizarre. So
Well, and that happened, and then there's there was in 1927 a guy. It's called the Salem cab attack, and so he was a taxi driver, and he
yeah,
was allegedly attacked and killed by a Jersey Devil when he was changing a tire. There were witnesses to this event who said there was a winged creature on top of the cab when they drove up on the site.
I don't. I got what I got. He wasn't killed. He got away, but again, yeah, he was changing his tire. And in 1927, there weren't street lights. It was pitch
It's
black.
dark. It's dark.
Yeah, people forget that there's city dark and then there's country dark.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
in the country, in the woods, when it gets dark, dark.
Well, and
So
especially somewhere like that, because you're so far away from anything. You don't have the glow of the next town. You don't have any of that. When you get out in these places, if there's no moon, particularly, it's
yeah,
really dark. Yeah, so that's interesting. So there's a discrepancy on whether he was killed or not. And then in 1960, in Mays Landing, now Mays Landing is south of the I'm pretty sure it's south of what we're talking about. Mays Landing is a really pretty. There's a lighthouse there. It's a really neat area. And this was, I think, people heard the screech of some kind of animal there, but they have no idea what they heard. There was a lot of reports of this very strange sound that was going on.
was that the dirt bike people riding through the woods and they broke down?
I didn't get that.
Oh,
What
okay,
What do you
okay,
have?
okay. In the 1980s, a group of young men were riding dirt bikes through the Pine Barrens, and both of their both of their bikes stalled out. So when everybody gets off and they're fixing their bikes, and they hear screaming and what is it? Screaming and just something going off in the woods, and they got a couple of their bikes running, and whoever would, I don't know if you heard some kind of screeching and screaming out in the woods and you're fixing your bike and it's getting dark. I'd split, and half of the group split and went back, but the other half stayed to get the rest of the bikes running. and they were staying, and this thing just kept going off and off and off, and they finally said that's enough. They got their bikes running and they took off, and they went to a local biker bar, and they were getting some drinks. They were talking to the bartender, told him what happened, and he just matter of fact just said, "Yeah, that's the Jersey Devil." So what? Yeah, what is it? I don't know, but something that's screeching and screaming at me while I'm trying to fix my motorcycle to get out of there. I'd probably become the fastest mechanic ever, for sure. So
Yeah, there's another story that happened. So back in the 1820s or so, Napoleon Bonaparte's older brother actually reported a sighting of this thing when he was in the Pine Barrens. And then you fast forward to I don't know when this was, the 1990s or so, 2000s. There's a man who was traveling down an unpaved road, so the dirt road in South Jersey. He's on a date, and he and his girlfriend saw this thing. And he said it sent chills up his spine. When he got home, he drew it. And then as he gets married, he has kids, he kept that drawing hidden from his children because he didn't want them to freak out, because this is what he saw. Then he becomes a teacher, and he finally disclosed the drawing, and it's very similar to the drawing that we showed earlier. And he's now open and talking about it, where before he didn't want to talk about it, but now he's like, what have I got to lose? This thing is out there. I saw it. My girlfriend saw it. We had this experience. So,
yeah, that's interesting.
There's a creature very similar to this that there's one photograph that I know of that has been seen in East Texas, in the Pine area of East Texas. So when you get into East Texas towards Louisiana, it's very wooded. It's very densely wooded. And somebody took a picture of it. This was somebody said it was more like Mothman, but it looked more like the Jersey Devil renderings. It had a very narrow body, and all you see is, and it doesn't look photoshopped. That's the thing. If this is a Photoshop, then it was very, very well done. You can see this winged creature kind of taking off through the woods up over the highway that this guy was traveling on. And you see the massive wing span of this thing is really quite large.
Okay. But, yeah, I think I've seen that, and it's bizarre. If it was photoshopped, it was a darn good job, but still, yeah, seeing that one so up close, man, I wouldn't go step foot in that set of woods again.
Right. So you have all of these people, and that's what always fascinates me about the whole cryptid legend thing, right? Is it a cryptid? Is it a legend? Is it a little bit of both? Like Bigfoot and all these other things, because we never have physical proof of these things. We get sightings, we have people that are drawing things, but we never get that physical proof. And that's what I keep us from the scientific standpoint, is like, I want to see this. I want to see it. A real thing. I don't necessarily want somebody to kill it, but it would be nice to have it on display somewhere. I don't know, at a zoo. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, they tried that. They tried that way back when at the Arch Museum. They told them that they caught the Jersey Devil and put it on display. And when people came to see it, it was just a kangaroo with with wings glued to its back and claws, and tried to pass it off as a Jersey Devil.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so there has been these winged creatures that have been seen. Like I said, the Texas, there was, I think, somewhere like Wisconsin or Minnesota, there was a winged creature. we all have heard the stories of the Mothman in West Virginia, and and that's been all over the globe. So they all have this giant winged appearance. So is there a creature out there that's incredibly elusive? It makes sense that there would be more than just one. I mean, obviously, because you need a viable population to keep going, right?
Yeah.
But how are they staying hidden? Like the Bigfoot, how are they staying hidden? That's why, is there a supernatural element to some of this stuff? I don't know.
Who knows? I'm not
Can
sure
they
either.
go through portals? Are they moving around like that? Because, I mean, the Pine Barrens, 3,500 miles, people think that's huge, right? But that's not that big, really, for the size of the population that's on that East Coast, right? And then and a lot of people vacation there. A lot of people go there. It's a really big deal. You kayak. There's there's all of these different forest and wildlife management areas all within this thing. So there's a lot of activity there. People go there, and it's absolutely beautiful. So you would think there would be more sightings.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Maybe it
I don't
just
know.
hunkers down and picks and chooses when it wants to show up.
Maybe. So if you said it was Jefferson who started this whole thing?
No, Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin. So if Ben Franklin started this rumor based on a Native American story, then or he took the story and he ran with it. It's kind of fascinating that people are still seeing it, even modern time, right? Even within the last 30 years, people have seen this thing. So
Yeah, well, when this story came out, a lot of the people that lived in the woods, like they call them pine rats, or as we know them, hillbillies, or something of that sort. They live in the woods and off the land, and that was one of their things, was to tell people about the Jersey Devil, tell the kids about the Jersey Devil. And that was their boogeyman. So, are you familiar with tulpas?
mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe with all these storytellings going around, because they were very superstitious, and you tell them about this creature that's flying around. Maybe the more they told people about it, the more they believed, and it popped into existence. But
Yeah,
maybe it's
so
always been there.
for our listeners and our viewers, we have an episode on tulpas. You can go back and listen to that. But there's a very strong belief that what you believe you manifest. And if you put, well, even just yourself, but if you put particularly generations of people have a belief system of something, that they can manifest it, that it springs into being and it becomes a sentient being all on its own, right? Mm-hmm. That it's now whatever it is, whatever you've manifested this thing, and then it takes on its own life. And it's not necessarily good, but it's not necessarily bad, but it becomes sentient, meaning it's now a thinking thing, creature, whatever. And they can really wreak havoc. And this is not just like urban legend. I mean, there are religions all around the world who believe in tulpas and the manifestation of tulpas. So,
just look at what the internet has done in the past 10 or 15 years. Are you familiar with the rake?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that was a story that somebody made up and put on the internet. And people saw it, started believing it was real, and then all of a sudden there are sightings of this creature running around. And another good one, albeit the case afterwards was horrific, but Slender Man. Somebody wrote that,
yeah,
and it took off like crazy to the point of that horrific murder case way back when.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so things like yeah, a topo is a really good argument for this stuff, right?
mhm.
Um, I don't know. But anyway, I thought the Jersey Devil is pretty interesting in that we have sightings, even modern times. I mean, this started in the 1700s as a fight, and then it it keeps going. It keeps going. If you look online on YouTube, there's going to be all kinds of different paranormal groups that are out there in the Pine Barrens and the Piney Woods that are looking for this elusive Jersey Devil. And they have some. If you watch some of them, they have interactions with something. But I've watched some of these groups out there, and some of them are just running around in the woods and they're just stupid, but other seem to be scientifically looking for something, and they are having interactions with something, and you can see movement on the off camera that seems to move higher than like what like a deer could move. It's up in the trees and it's moving through the treetops. I don't know what this thing is, but you can kind of make out that there's a form. I don't know what it is.
I don't know
So
either. Did you run across the 1909 story of the Navy having a sighting with this thing?
no, fascinating.
Um, so the Navy was running drills at Hanover Mill, and they were firing cannons, and this creature came out of the sky. They sighted it, and the Navy commander, um, Stephen Decatur, uh, fired a cannonball at it. It hit it, and it didn't even phase it, and then it
Wow,
flew off. So yeah, I don't
fascinating.
know. That has a little bit of a paranormal angle at it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can shoot it and just shrugs a cannonball off. So
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, some of these things maybe they're supernatural. I don't know. I think that's yeah. Anyway, fascinating topic. If anybody has actually been out hunting for the Jersey Devil and they have a story, tell us in the comments. I would love to read your stories. I'd love to have you on as a guest. We're always looking for guests for the podcast, so um, keep us in mind when you have these fascinating interactions with stuff, or you've taken interesting pictures and you don't know what it is. Somebody sent me the other day a picture from a Ring doorbell, and the doorbell faces like a forest. I mean, there's no road in front of the house, right? So that where the doorbell is, somebody, I guess they must park on the side of the house and come around to the front. But it's a very forested area, and they have a picture of, a lot of people shrug off light phenomenon orbs. They're like, it's just, it's dust and it's a bug. But sometimes it's not. And this it was like basketball size, glowing light comes up and comes all around the porch, and it's moving really slow and with purpose. And y'all know what insects look like on a camera. They're they're just like, they never, like, do they even have a thought? How, you know what I mean? They're just flying everywhere. This thing comes up and it's moving kind of all around the porch, comes up to the camera, looks at it, and then turns around and leaves. And it's just like a basketball size of light. There's so much phenomenon out there that we don't know. So even though I laugh at a few things, in the back of my head, it creeps in that there's got to be a supernatural element to this stuff, and that has to be why they're staying so elusive.
yeah, uh, that's for
So
sure. So we
yeah,
don't know everything in the world, and the world is old. So, and we haven't been around that long. So who knows? I
yeah,
mean, everything has a kernel of truth to it. So, with all these stories that people have told
yep,
over the years.
yep. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today on our episode of the real truth behind the Jersey Devil, which I didn't know before. So thanks, Kelly, for sharing that story. That was I never ran into that information, so that's great.
You're welcome. It was fun looking that up.
All right, everybody, catch us next time.
You've been listening to Speaking of Spirits, powered by Pocatello Paranormal Research in Pocatello, Idaho. Thank you for joining us today. We're glad you could be here. If you're enjoying the podcast, please do us a favor and go to whatever platform you are listening to the podcast on and give us a review. We prefer the 5-star reviews. This helps us know how we're doing, and it helps others to find the podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on our next podcast.